This is All India Radio. In the program Spotlight, now we bring you a discussion on Liberalized MSME Authorised Economic Operators Package. The participants are Shubhomoy Bhattacharjee, Economic Analyst, and AIR Correspondent Sonu Sood.
Yesterday, Central Board of Indirect Taxes and Customs, CBIC, announced its new initiative, introducing its flagship scheme, Liberalized Authorised Economic Operator Package for Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises, MSMEs. Shubhamoy, can you tell us what is the significance of bringing this initiative for MSMEs to grant them this Authorized Economic Operator AEO status?
Basically, what it does is MSMEs have what the government has done, the tax department has done, is that they have relaxed the compliance criteria for the MSMEs. So what it means is that lots of MSMEs have problems in terms of importing and exporting their stuff. So there's a lot of documentation that they have to do. Those documentation requirements have been lowered. One example they've given is that you have to file about 10 customs clearance documents in 1 year and others. Those sort of things have been highly simplified to make it easy for MSMEs to be able to do their business without getting into the problems of adding on to the documentation requirements.
So this relaxed eligibility requirement which has been introduced, they have said that there is the provision that the MSME should have a valid certificate from their line ministry. Can you tell us something about this? What does that entail?
Supposing it's a textile sector MSME. Now that would need, it might be having a regular line of export, or it might be putting in some of the items that it needs as an import at times. Now it is actually involved in that sort of an export and import business is something that the concerned line ministry, in this case the textile ministry, will give them sort of a clearance that will allow them to jump the hoop on several more clearances that was being necessary. So there'll be, for instance, and what does it mean? What are the benefits they'll give? They'll get a further reduction in bank guarantee requirements. They will be able to get a swifter customs clearance. They will get what is called the direct port delivery, which means that their consignments come. They don't need to wait to go through what is called the customs cargo clearance areas and can take the delivery on the same day. And those sort of things makes life easier for them. So they also get priority in refunds, in duty drawback rebate. All of these sort of stuff comes in useful for the MSMEs. Essentially, as I said, it is basically a means to allow them to carry on their business without getting involved in too much of documentation problems, which the work often forces them to get into.
So Shubhamoy, which are the sectors of the economy whose MSMEs will benefit most from this liberalized AEO scheme?
Well, if you look at our MSMEs, they are there in most of the sectors. I mean, MSMEs, for instance, are there right from auto sector, right down to textile sectors. And in fact, now MSMEs are getting on into even sectors which were not thought that they would be there. For instance, many of them are also involved in defense as ancillary productions. So there are lots of sectors where they can be and they will be able to get into. And they do get into. So there is plenty of, it cuts across the economy wherever there is, I mean, MSMEs in India, and in fact that is what you expect also in a large economy, that they straddle several sectors.
So this liberalized MSME AEO package scheme, it's a voluntary compliance program which enables swifter customs clearance, as you said, for accredited stakeholders in the global supply chain. There's importers, exporters, logistics service providers. So what are the implications for consolidating our position in global supply chain?
Any process which leads to reduction in compliances helps industry. The moment the paperwork becomes intimidating for a sector, that acts as a deterrent for companies to grow up. For instance, you would find that many of the companies, the smaller units, have to do huge number of compliances in, for instance, on labor, which has been right now been reduced. There were compliances on many other sectors, like for instance, even fire protocol. All of these just create a lot of bandwidth problem for MSMEs. And that is what is very important for the government to recognize, for the state governments to recognize, because the share of the MSMEs in the gross value added in the entire economy is almost like 32 to 34%. Now, that is a significant part of the economy that we are talking about. So if we are, by doing this step, we are actually allowing more than almost a third of our economy gets freed from requirements of additional documentation, and to that extent allows them to show more production.
So the productivity will go up, the efficiency will go up. You mentioned states. What is the role of the states in enabling this initiative to really become effective?
We have seen this was basically done by the Department of Indirect Taxes, which is the Customs and Central Excise. So the states really are not involved in this particular issue. But overall, when the message is well taken, that not to create hassles and to try to make efforts to ensure that the MSMEs are able to basically get on with their life. So wherever it's possible, little by little, if states can try to create simplified clearances for companies, for units, that's always something that attracts more companies, more units to set up base in that place.
Shubhabu, in fact, since this COVID started, that has been the sector of the economy which has been hit the maximum. So how far do you think this step will go in encouraging MSMEs and boosting growth of this employment generating sector?
MSME sector is significant, as I not only said, employment generator, but the other thing is that MSME sector has got very strong linkage with the import and export business. In fact, more than the large-scale units, it's the MSME sector which has got stronger involvement in the trade of that India has with the rest of the world. Let's take an example. We are trying to promote farm exports, now wood processing, and so many other things. Those sort of units, you can expect that they will be rather hamstrung if they are forced to work on these sort of documentation. So that is where the thrust of this entire process of simplification comes along.
Now, there is a commitment by Central Board of Indirect Taxes and Customs. They have committed that they will take a quick decision regarding a grant of AEO status. In fact, they have committed that within only 15 days from electronic submission of complete documents, the decision will be taken. How important is this speed for ease of doing business?
It is. These are useful things. What it does is that MSMEs have, it's very difficult to say there's a one-size-fits-all, but MSMEs have, considering the number of units they are there. Let's look at, for instance, the number of MSMEs they are there. Under the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation Scheme says that the estimated employment generator by MSMEs is close to about 5 lakhs. And if you look at in terms of credit facilities that they take, it has been about 4.36 lakh in the 2018-19. Now, if you look at it, even in terms of guarantees, the Credit Guarantee Fund for micro and small enterprises, which makes available collateral-free credit to micro and small enterprise sector, you would see the number of guarantees approved is about 30,000 crore. Now, those are fabulously big numbers, and it does show the deep contribution to the economy by the MSMEs. So it is very useful that whenever these MSMEs are given benefits, it actually has a very strong multiplier effect on the rest of the economy. Especially you must remember that the MSME sector is dominated not by the medium enterprises but by the micro enterprises. In fact, there is a data with the Ministry of Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises which says that India has about 6.33 crore MSMEs, of which 6.30, which means 99.4%, are micro enterprises, and only about 5,000 odd are medium enterprises. So this means that the number of enterprises are very small and yet they are huge. And if these enterprises are given benefits, then that makes for a tremendous difference in their ability to function.
In fact, there's a lot of stress which is being laid on being a job creator rather than being a job seeker. So you feel that these kind of benefits which are coming out for MSMEs, be it the emergency credit line guarantee scheme or many other schemes, many reforms which government has been bringing out for this sector, this reform which has come from the indirect taxes and customs department, do you feel that this will encourage more and more people to start small businesses which can generate employment and generate income for the country?
There is a lot of discussion that would happen, supposing there's a micro enterprise or even a small enterprise, and it finds that it is not too difficult to do business. The documentation problems are taken care of. not too many hassles happen in terms of even doing export and imports. Now, obviously, that sort of a discussion, that sort of a impression, they would be carrying on to others. And people would be listening to those and would find that, yes, fine, I mean, why not? If it is relatively easy, then instead of trying to figure out if there's an employment possibility somewhere else, why shouldn't I try to create an enterprise? If I have ideas, if I can create new avenues, then, I mean, I'm sure. And one of the reasons why lots of people do not feel the confidence to start doing something, they get scared because of the fact that it is the documentation, which is what often deters them. So if the documentation is actually lowered at every stage, then that definitely gives much more comfort to people to start setting up their own units, whether in the service sector or manufacturing something or the other.
You just now mentioned among the facilities that are being offered under this authorized economic operator package, the direct port delivery of imported containers, direct port entry of export containers, exemption from bank guarantees, high facilitation in custom clearance, that is shorter cargo release time, priority for, as you mentioned, refund, rebate, duty drawback. Now, you feel that all these steps that are being taken, they will reduce both the time and the cost, and hence the efficiency and attractiveness of doing business for small enterprises?
Certainly. I mean, you have the advantage that typically ports and other places are huge enterprises by themselves. And what they do or their work often gets focused on the large operators, the large companies who are coming in there. And there it's difficult often for micro enterprises and, well, even if we don't talk micro enterprises, even about small enterprises, to get a word in about something that's happening with them, about their requirements of paperwork and so on. Now, if the government itself says that, fine, I mean, we realize that you've got a problem, and so we will ensure that you do not have to fill up those details, then that makes for a lot of advantage. Then that gives, again, as I said, in those intimidating circumstances, it becomes easier for the MSME sector, for these enterprises, to start looking at opportunities that can be created. They can find that it's almost like creating a different channel for them. So they get more benefits, more confidence that, yes, that this is something that where they can have somebody to listen to their problems and their challenges, and the fact that they don't have too much of time within which they can clear those, so they don't have to wait too much. So all of these little things, again, as I said, gives them the confidence to carry on with their business.
In fact, there is also the concept that has been introduced of a client relation manager at the customs port as a single point of interaction. Do you think that is also a very thoughtful concept? Because with digitization, sometimes the business people face this problem of not having somebody to talk to, get their doubts clarified, which may not be possible to put in the digital medium.
That's right. And in fact, just like reduction in bank guarantee requirements, which actually reduces the cost of work for the MSMEs, similarly, these sort of handholding reduces the level of investments that these units need to put on from their own side to be able to negotiate through the process of either sending the consignments out or receiving the consignments. And remember, their consignments that they'll be getting will be very small and pretty much not even one entire container, just a portion of a container. So it's essentially, as I said, that their voices and their demands often get totally subsumed within the larger guys. And that is where the hassles actually become rather too daunting for the companies, for these units to be able to handle. So yes, these sort of steps reduce their cost of doing business. And each rupee of cost that it reduces makes it that much more easy for them to produce goods at more competitive rates. So when we say that whether these guys can approach business outside, whether they'll be able to source new markets, that the answer is that yes, if we can do these sort of stuff, then certainly they can do all those.
Thank you so much, Shubhamoy, for this in-depth discussion.
Thanks a lot.
You were listening to a discussion on Liberalized MSME Authorized Economic Operators Package. The participants were Shubhamoy Bhattacharjee, Economic Analyst, and AIR Correspondent Sonu Sood. This program was produced and presented by the News Services Division of All India Radio. You can listen to it on our mobile app, News on AIR. This program is also available on our website, newsonair.com. You may email your opinion about this program at airnsttalks@gmail.com.